I think AD is gonna paint her nails red and go ahead and get to that altar. It's crazy because Chelsea literally looks like his sister. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today I thought we would talk about the next couple episodes of Love is Blind. I thought we'd talk about the different situations. If you want to know my character breakdown, because these are basically characters, since we get very small snippets, Netflix manipulates the footage. We have to keep that in mind. Yes, these people are actually doing these things, but they manipulate the footage and there's certain things we don't see, so we have to keep that in mind. But if you want to see my character breakdown, go to my video from last week. So today I thought we would focus on a lot of Chelsea's traits, because I see a lot of people frustrated and pissed off with Chelsea. So I thought, why not break it down and kind of give an understanding, not an excuse, but an understanding to why she does the things she does. Because again, a lot of people get frustrated because they actually see themselves in some of these traits, and that's why they get really pissed off. So there's that, and then I thought we would break down Clay and some of the things he does as well. I'll do a little bit at the end, because you want to stick around to the end. We'll talk a little bit about Jeramey and Laura, and also we'll talk a little bit about Kenneth and Brittany. So there's something we have to keep in mind about Chelsea. Chelsea, yeah, she's immature, yeah, she's insecure, but overall, she's not a terrible person. You know, she's playful, she tries to be a nice friend, you know, all those things. She has some positive traits to her. And then it's when she's triggered, that's when all of the unhealthy, toxic traits come out. So the two big fights we saw between her and Jimmy, that's when her insecure attachment had come out. So there's one fight where there's the clingy fight, and she's talking about overly giving, and it's very common when you have an insecure attachment, you feel that you try to give 110% of yourself, you will overly give. And then what happens is you build resentment because your partner is not going to give the same thing, because you're overly giving to overcompensate for feeling not good enough or for the fear of being abandoned or not liked. And then because you're not getting something back, because we don't just give without the hopes that we'll get that love in return. And not only that, but she doesn't give herself her own needs, and she doesn't meet her own needs, and she expects her partner to do that because she's treating her partner the way she wants to be treated to some degree. Then that's when that resentment will build. And that's when she had mentioned, I did this, this, and this, and you call me clingy, which there's nothing wrong with him sharing his feelings, because she was like, hey, why are you distant? That's why, because she was doing too much. So she gives, and she has this expectation for him to meet all of her needs. But as you see, it's never enough, because really she needs to lower the bar, and she also needs to give a lot of that stuff to herself. And she needs to work on her insecurities and feeling good enough and being okay whether he's there or not. So a lot of her fights do revolve around that fear of abandonment. She's overly giving, she's not getting the same thing in return. Now there's another thing we have to talk about, which is her betrayal trauma. So she's mentioned multiple times she's someone that's been cheated on, and you can see in the second big fight that betrayal trauma comes right out. So when you've been cheated on, when you've been betrayed, the world feels different. Like, you in the past had trusted someone, you were cheated on, and now you don't know what's reality. And so you will take that, if you don't heal, do the healing work, you will take that on into your next relationships. And that's exactly what she does. Or she could also be projecting, because there has been some talk allegedly that she also is a cheater. So she may be projecting that he's going to cheat, and also she is afraid of him cheating because she's been cheated on. So let's talk about what happened in the scene where they're fighting, and he had went out, and she's telling this story about how she doesn't want to be with a guy that just goes out all the time. And it's pretty clear he's not someone that goes out all the time. He went out for a friend's birthday, seemed like it was very nonchalant, it wasn't out all night, it wasn't a Jeramey situation. But she had built up and made up this story, because that's what happens with betrayal trauma, is like there's these stories that play in your mind. She had built up the story that he is a partier and she's always going to be out, and she's going to be at home worrying sick because maybe that's something that's happened in her past, and she's always going to be stressed in this relationship, and that she can't trust him. She already built up the story that he's untrustworthy because it's a trigger for her partners to go out. So she can appear controlling, like, hey, you have to stay in with me, I don't want someone that goes out. When in reality, that's not healthy. You can't keep your partner caged in like that. And she also clearly had a fear that he was going to get with his 2 friends that were girls, because he had hooked up with them in the past. So there's that fear of, oh no, you know, that door's been open, which that is a valid fear. If the door has been open, there's always that fear that that can happen again. So that's a little iffy when it comes to still maintaining a friendship with someone that you've hooked up with in the past. That's something that too, you know, when you're in a partnership, you have to agree on boundaries on all of those things. But the problem is that she probably would push the bounds of like trying to create distance and control the situation, because she doesn't know how to have compromise or negotiate or have a healthy conversation about it. Now, Jimmy, I will say kudos to him. He stood his ground, and he wasn't really wrong in this situation. He set a boundary. He was hurt based on the things that she was saying, because she was questioning his love and she was playing the victim. Because again, in her story, she's always the victim. People are doing things to her. And so because she's in the story, she's always the victim and everyone's out to get her and she's getting hurt, she needs to defend and protect. So that's why she had said, I don't want this. So it seems like she may, I mean, obviously can't diagnose her, but it seems like it's either she has an anxious attachment or a fearful avoidant attachment. The fearful avoidant because of the push and pull. She will sabotage her relationships out of the fear of what could happen, and always playing the story of I need to protect myself. And also she feels like she's not good enough and she will never have the love that she desires. Now in this fight, when she started saying, you know, I don't want this, I don't want to be with someone like you, you know, she basically was saying like trying to teeter towards ending the relationship. She was subconsciously, she probably didn't realize consciously, but she was subconsciously testing him to see, are you going to abandon me when things get tough, when I push you away? What's going to happen when I try to push you away? Are you going to leave? She was coming from her emotional, irrational part of her brain. So she wasn't thinking with reason or logic of the consequences. She was thinking, I have a feeling, I have a need, and I need to get this need met of, I need you to validate me and tell me that you're gonna stay and you love me and you are not gonna go out and party all the time. She was manipulating to some degree. And that's why when Jimmy said, okay, I'm done, if you're gonna test my love, I don't want any part of this. And she immediately had snapped out of it and was like, wait, what's happening here? You're not giving into, you know, my test. She was like, shit, I don't want that to happen. So that's why she pulled and reined back and like, wait, why are you just gonna abandon me? All of her insecurities had come out in that moment, and that's where she very much so does the push and pull. So it's a couple things. It's her insecure attachment. It's the fact that she's always a victim. She plays these stories in her head, and she very much gets triggered and then goes into that emotional part of her brain. What I would say is Chelsea very much so needs to work on it. She had said she's in therapy, which is awesome. She needs to do some healing work and deal with her betrayal trauma, deal with her insecure attachment, and learn to attend to her own needs, not be so codependent. Also not expecting so much in return if she is going to overly give, you know, having healthy boundaries, and she'll most likely be able to have healthy relationships. And also dealing with her triggers a lot better. That's really important. And like I said, Jimmy handled that really well. Jimmy, I will say, I think he's really good with his boundaries. I mean, I'm not 100% team Jimmy. I'm just like, no, whatever. But I do think that he is good with, you know, setting a boundary and creating security for any woman. And also, it's crazy because Chelsea literally looks like his sister and looks like she could belong in the family. So I think that also adds brownie points of why he would want to stick it out. Now the next person I want to talk about is Clay. So I don't know if anyone else was surprised. I actually didn't look up online, but I don't know if anyone else was surprised that AD's mama, like, she was really surprised by Clay and really liked him. And in my mind, when I saw this, what made me think that she liked him so much, because when he was like spilling his guts, and I can see AD gets her kind, loving nature from her mom, and I think what happened is that she saw him being vulnerable, and so she took that as, this is a man that's trying to do better and do work, and I really value that. And she saw him in a positive light because he shared those things. Because I was like, oh my goodness, he's really going down the list of things and really trying to sell himself, it seems like. And often, I'm not saying Clay is necessarily manipulative, but manipulative people often will share vulnerabilities to get people on their side and to like them. So you could see that's partially what happened. But in reality, Clay takes me as the type where he will do wrong, but because he shared all his vulnerabilities and he shared all about him, he basically gave a list of this is who I am, these are the bad things. When he does those things, he says, well, I told you, you chose it, and he'll flip it around and make it about the other person, that they caused this issue. He's like, I warned you, but you still chose me anyway. And I think that's one of the reasons why he constantly talks about the cheating. I think it is an insecurity of his, and maybe he's afraid of it, because who wouldn't, you know, see all that messed up stuff and it not traumatize you? I've had clients where I've seen that firsthand, but he's talking about it so much to the point where it's like, okay, you're basically telling AD that there's a big possibility you're gonna cheat on her. Clay is also looking for someone that will tolerate his lifestyle, and I think AD is showing that she's willing to tolerate him being in and out, especially with him, you know, sprinkling some gift giving in there and sprinkling some, you know, fun times. I think he's, you know, trying to show her that he can try to do both, but I think over time it will be hard for him, and he's going to get very work focused and become distant, because I think he just very much so is more avoidant, and he avoids things that make him uncomfortable. So will they get married? I think this one's an iffy one for me. I think they will wind up getting married, especially because it seems like they're very much in the honeymoon phase. It's just a matter of, does AD want to tolerate his lifestyle, and is Clay gonna let fear of commitment stop him from getting married? So I think AD is gonna paint her nails red and go ahead and get to that altar. Johnny and Amy, there's not enough screen time. I don't think there's enough negativity. I think people are obsessing about the birth control situation, but I think Netflix overly hyped up or overly edited into that, because they don't have much conflict. It seems like that's the only thing that comes up. So Johnny and Amy, Kenneth and Brittany was a whole situation where Kenneth just made excuses for his behavior, especially in that fight where Brittany was like expressing his feelings, and he made it seem like, oh, if you don't like me, then we can't do this to both of ourselves. Instead, like, in reality, if he really wanted to work with her, he could have said, okay, let's work on this together. But he didn't care that much. There was a lack of interest, maybe there was a lack of chemistry. Brittany was really trying hard. You can see that she was trying to include him in things, and he was just aloof and doing his own thing. And so he completely turned it around, and he manipulated the situation to make it seem like he was the good guy and doing a favor and like ending the relationship because she wasn't, you know, satisfied or happy with the way things were going. And the Jeramey situation, there's no surprise there. I had mentioned in my previous video that he's childlike, he's very immature, and he runs away from things when it makes him uncomfortable. That's exactly what he did with the Laura Sarian situation. He does whatever he wants when he wants, because he just wants to feel good. He doesn't want to deal with consequences. So what do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. We'll talk a little bit about Jimmy